Sanibonani. Sishilo, Ncwaba, Mathendro, Ubayikhulu. Ngihamba nogoba Machanga Samahle, ombambo, omageza ngobisi. Today, I want to talk about the importance of fetching the spirit of a loved one from where they died or from where they passed. When someone passes, their soul gets confused, especially if it's in an accident. But it also happens even if you've died in the ICU or in hospital. Now, the soul gets lost and gets confused at what's happening. I am no longer living. I am not one with my body anymore. So as members of the family, most African cultures have a method to go and fetch the soul from where death occurred. This can be on the side of the highway where there was an accident. This can be in hospital where the person drew their last breath. We normally do this during the funeral, and then we do this a year after the funeral when we are doing an unveiling or the process where we are retrieving the soul from its last resting place. Now, firstly, if you have a chance and you've got data, go onto Google and look for a tree called Umlahlankosi. In English, it's called a buffalo thorn tree. In Zulu, we also call it Ihlahla. When you get this tree, you take just a branch out and you use that as a stick that will be used to communicate with the person who's passed on. The history of this tree is that when a chief had died in the olden days, remember there was no tombstones back then. It would be planted there where the chief was buried. Then everybody would know that our chief was buried here. Nowadays, it's used everywhere. That's why it's called Umlahlankosi. Direct translation, where the king last laid. Now, what do you do with it? Again, I just want to stress that the person who can use it is the person who's been designated in the family to be the one who speaks Emsamo when Impepho is being burnt. Because it's not everyone that does that. So maybe they'll say your eldest uncle is the one that is speaking now whenever these things are being done, when there is a chat with the ancestors. So now your uncle has died and he died at the hospital. Whoever died, your mom, your dad, whoever's passed on, you take this branch, Umlahlankosi, you go to the hospital. Now, it is important that you go with someone, because you who will be speaking to that person who's passed on cannot speak to anyone else during the process. You cannot be distracted. I don't know if I'm making sense, but you'll understand just now. So you go to the hospital. Let's say they died in ICU. You go to the hospital. Don't worry. They know. They understand. You explain to the head nurse or the doctor that you hear for your late relatives that has passed on. You go to that place that person last ended. You put the umlahlankosi there and then speak. Call them by their names. Sbanbani, Sbanbani, Sbanbani. This is me speaking, my name. You say your name. I'm here to retrieve your spirit. I am going to lead you to your final resting place. But before we do that, we need to go home where you used to stay. So let's say this person had a house. Maybe this was a man of the house. And that's where the funeral is at. Then you are taking that spirit there. Now, this is the important part. You cannot lose the spirit. So you have to tell them consistently along the way. Sbanbani, this is their name. We are now turning the car. It's turning left. The car has stopped at the robot. The car is now going straight. The car is slowing down. Please do not lose us. Come with us. All the time you are holding umlahlankosi. So where are you going? Maybe it's the morning of the funeral, or you made a decision that you guys are going to have the coffin at home on a Friday. So if you're doing it on a Friday afternoon, then you need to take umlahlankosi and take it to meet with the body where the body is. So let's say the coffin is at home or the coffin is in church. You give directions and instruction to the soul that this is what's happening now. This is what's happening now. You are not talking to anybody else in the car. There is absolute silence in the car. The radio should be switched off. You don't want to confuse the spirit. Then you get to the coffin and you put it on top and say, we are now here. Then you are free. Then when you guys are leaving, the procession is now maybe going to church or going to the cemetery. You tell them again, using umlahlankosi, that we are now going to your final resting place. Now, when you're done at the cemetery, you throw umlahlankosi in to the hole where that's been dug for the person to be buried. Then a year later, an unveiling happens. When the unveiling happens, normally there'll be a cow and a goat for the function. The whole year has passed. The entire point is to bring the spirit back home so that they can be part of the ancestral crew that looks after the family. Use umlahlankosi again, going to the cemetery. Do the same thing, taking the person back to the home. That's basically the process. So it depends where the person died. If they've died on the side of the road and you know where they died, go there. If you were told that, no, this person died here, go there. Now, it's important to remember, and I'm going to make another video on this. It's important to remember that from a cultural perspective, if someone has died by an accident, or maybe they were shot and then they died, traditionally, that person's coffin cannot enter the home. Why am I saying this? If the person during the funeral process, usually some people start everything on Friday night, others can do it on a Saturday. It depends how you do it at home. Others can even have a funeral on a Wednesday. If you do this and the person has died by accident and you allow the coffin to enter the home, you are then making and allowing what is called umkhokha, a curse, to enter the family. What does this mean? This means now that there's many other people that are going to die from accidents, because of this curse, or many people that are going to die from gunshots because of this curse, or others it's suicide, or many people that are going to die from suicide. Now, the process there, I guess then I'm not going to have to make a video because I'm explaining it. The process there is that when that person who's died that way, they're not allowed to enter the house, but they have to be cleansed. So you cleanse their body using several herbs, and you make sure that you close the curse so that it doesn't happen again. Others can use prayer. There's many churches that have ways. Most prominent ones are the Shembe Church. In KZN, they do that very well, so that the accident or the gunshot or the suicide doesn't repeat itself in the family. So someone is going to ask me, okay, Mkulu, but if the coffin is not allowed to enter the home, then what happens? So others will bring the coffin on Saturday morning when the funeral procession is going to happen. But the coffin will end up in a tent, not inside the actual dwelling, even after it's been cleansed, because it's been known that the curse occurs anyways, even after cleansing. So to avoid it, rather don't make the coffin enter the home. But the entire point of this video was for me to teach you about the importance of retrieving people's spirits. You hear stories of when you drive on a certain road at night, you'll see a ghost, or the ghost will enter your car. Those are all the people around the country that died and they were never retrieved because people from their families didn't know, they didn't understand. So people don't really follow culture anymore. They don't do these things. And the ghost just landed there. It's not a lot of them because process of passing over to the other side is not the same. Other people, when they die, their relatives are waiting for them there. Your angels, your guardians are waiting for you, and then they'll guide you. But for some reason, there are those that get lost. So that's why we have this process of using Umlahlankosi. Remember, it's the buffalo thorn tree. You just need a branch from it. Just a small little branch, and you can use it to go and retrieve your loved ones who have passed on. Thokozani bantu bakithi, Lesedi, Makhosi, Thobela, Tamako, ngiyabonga.